June.
Thought it was.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Canandaigua Town Board meeting for June 21st, 2021. Welcome back, everyone. We're doing this by Zoom in person to see how this works. We have a new microphone set up. So let us know if you can or cannot hear us. It's nice to be back, everyone. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilman Terry.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Could you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilman Gary Davis,
Present.
Councilwoman Linda Dvorak,
Present.
Councilman Terry Fennelly,
Present.
Supervisor Kathy Mennicott,
Present.
Councilman Jared Simpson.
Present.
Well, so you're not going to be able to change anything about the microphones. The microphones are what they are. So there's the 3 microphones there. So I'm not sure if that's because somebody's head was turned away or not, but they're all linked together. So there's nothing I can do about individual lines of microphones.
Okay, so I will try to speak up. Not going on here, sorry. Jane, could you please verify that the meeting was properly advertised?
Yes, it was. It did include the hybrid meeting as well.
You have birthdays for this cycle, which I just lost when I was trying to get more information. So I will come back to that. I apologize. Someone else up here it is. Our birthdays for this cycle. Happy birthday to the following people. June 21st, Bob Hilliard. June 21st, also Leaf. June 23rd, Mark Stryker. July 5th, Alexander Noveski. July 13th, Jordan Ward. July 14th, John Milk. July 14th, Travis Spike. Happy birthday, Leaf. What a way to spend your birthday. There's another way you would rather spend it.
Didn't happen this year.
Want us to sing, Leaf?
Go back a year.
All right, there's written communications attached to the agenda, which are available online. At this time, we have our first, actually, do you want to do our presentation? Should we take that? Is there anyone here who wants to be heard the first privilege of the floor? All right, we'll have another one. I would like just take this out of order for a presentation from Bonadio Group, our annual audit. This is Nick Toledno. Did I say your name close?
Actually, it's not Megan, this is Randy Shepherd, so it's okay.
I did not say your name correctly.
A little off in pronunciation, but you know, it's the spelling, which is always good every time.
It's that Italian G in there.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, I did hand out to the board the draft documents of the town's audit, which, as I said, still in draft form. We'll anticipate issuing this week, very shortly. And what we'll go over first is the letter that's on top, which is called the Required Communications Letter. And as the title implies, there's certain elements and items we're required to disclose and report to the board as part of the audit process, and this letter is a way that we do that. And the way it's formatted is the bold item kind of describes the category. To meet that explains really what that category is intended to describe to you. And then our response is in the italicized bold section. And the first category talks about accounting practices and policies. Essentially, it's the town's responsibility to establish those and follow those. And if there was any new standards that were implemented in the year, that's really what we like to call out. And there was one new accounting standard, which actually was initially intended to be last year's applicability. With everything going on, the standards were pushed everything out a year, sometimes 18 months. This relates to fiduciary activities, so things that were formally accounted for in your trust and agency account, how those were accounted for changed, and I'll walk you through those in a moment. Beyond that, there was no transactions entered into by the town without authoritative guidance, etc. At the bottom of the page, it talks about accounting estimates, and most financial statements include some element of estimation. The extent of which varies. And for the town, there's really only one really significant one we disclose related to the net pension asset, and that really is outside of the control. That's the New York State pension system. So they have an actuary that calculates that. They basically report to you what your piece of the state's pension system funding, whether it's an asset or liability, what that is, and you pick that up on your financial statements. Page 2 talks about any kind of disclosures that are particularly sensitive, either because of their significance to the financial statements or for another reason. If there were no particularly sensitive disclosures, the example I give here, and this is not indicative of what's going on, but if there was some kind of litigation outstanding against the town that might cause a negative impact, but there is nothing of that sort. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no difficulties. The audit continues to improve, and I do want to obviously thank Doug, and Kate, and Jean, and everyone else that we came in contact throughout the audit process. Went very well. I think each year we're seeing much more of the light at the end of the tunnel. As I like to say, that light is not a train anymore. It is now actually light at the end of the tunnel. And so things are going very well. When you talk about corrected and uncorrected misstatements, and we'll get to that at the end of this letter, we are required to disclose any adjustments that we identify, and we did list those for you. And when we had any disagreements with management, we would report those to you, but we had no disagreements. And then management representation letter, we will provide that or get that from management, which allow us to issue this in front of them. So we can actually turn right to the last page, which is Exhibit A. This will identify the adjustments as part of the audit process. And we summarize them by fund, so it's easier to identify. Some of them are a result of that accounting standard that I mentioned that was implemented as the before. In the general fund, there's two of them, the one for 75,000 as well as the one for 7,003. Those two are really a result of that standard. Then we had a couple small adjustments to really continue to clean up some of the old balances from the inventory transition as well as part of the bank reconciliation process. So the net impact was a reduction of fund balance of about 82,000. The biggest piece really being what was in the private purpose trust fund, which really wasn't something that Kate and management cleaned up during the year, and we called it priority before. Capital projects fund, two significant adjustments, two large ones related to the WIA grant, the water grant in 2020 that was received, and part of it was used to repay the bands for the band review for appropriation. The net impact of that was about 600,000, and so there's a total change in fund balance. Highway fund was a very, very small adjustment just to correct fund balance, and then a small adjustment in the trust and agency fund that kind of records some current activity. So much smaller than we've seen in the past. So I was very happy from that perspective, as you should be as the board. Turning to the financial statements now, and I'm just going to highlight a couple of pieces of it. Sorry, causing this system. So disappointed. We're looking at the opinion that begins on page 1. So this is essentially what your finance to provide to you, depending on the town's financial statements. And really the meat of this begins on page 2. And right at the top, under the opinion, what it says is that the statements are fairly stated in all material respects. That's a fancy way of saying it's a clean or an unmodified audit opinion. That's what you're looking to receive. And below that, we outline a few kind of unusual things this year, just really because of what's going on. So we had a couple prior period adjustments. I'm hoping this is the last year that we have these. The first of them relates to capital assets. So during the process of doing a revaluation of the capital asset balances, there was a significant adjustment we had to look related to infrastructure, and I'll show you that in a moment. We also had an adjustment to water receivables, so there was related to a grant that was recorded back in 2018. The money did come in 19, but did not get relieved from receivables, so it's still sitting there. We had to fill that on the books. And then the third item under other matters is a change in accounting principle. So when you implement a new standard, often they require the implementation to be a part of their adjustment. So that's not a negative to you, that's just the way it's accounted for. And that's what it began before. So if we can turn back, and I think I'll walk through with those adjustments that that's probably the most important thing. On page 42, which is part of the notes to the financial statements. really kind of describes GASB 4 and what the intent of that standard was. So you can get that. And on page 43, you can see the fund by fund impacts. So the first part of that really takes away or eliminates the trust agency. So what used to be out there as trust agency, they eliminated that with this new standard. So that those went away, and basically those amounts went out to different parts of the town. Part of it remained in what's called the custodial fund. So that's what they renamed that. And so not only were there things that went from trust to custodial, new things that maybe weren't recorded before, such as the town clerk accounts, some of the justice court activity, all that had to be picked up in this place where the intent is that when you're acting as a custodian, you have to record that activity. So the biggest pieces of that, there's about 100,000 for bid deposits that is captured in there. And then the other balance represents cash related to the two justices' bail. There's the private purpose trust, which essentially went away as well. And then down the bottom, the impacts on the general fund. So cash went up by about 130, which is the private purpose trust piece of 75 that you see there, as well as some additional amounts. So those are the biggest pieces of that. Following that adjustment is the infrastructure adjustment. Then describes that as a new valuation technique that was used this year. They revalued how the infrastructure would look. So basically increase the value of the roads, as well as decrease the value of the accumulated appreciation on those roads. So at the top of page 44, you can see the net impact of that adjustment was about 16 million. So it increased the value of your net position by 16 million under government-wide funding adjustment. So it's a big impact. And then the other adjustment was the water fund receivable. There you can see the impact of that, $300,000. Was sitting in accounts receivable at the end of last year. So we adjusted that out by 300, which impacts your fund balance as well. So those are the most significant pieces. I don't know if there's any other questions. Is there anything else?
No, thank you. We have been thinking about this and we discussed it in finance. A lot of us are up to speak. Thank you very much. It's very clear and very understandable.
The big adjustment that Randy was referring to, that's the new policy that we did. What was that 6 months ago? I don't remember exactly related to the process.
A lot of time and effort, you know.
Yep.
Into that, and I know everyone comes here.
No, it looks great. I'm glad to my term that all this stuff will be clear. We feel the same way. So thank you to everyone who has put a lot of time and effort in meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any priorities? Public hearings, we have none. New public hearings, none this evening. Reports of town officials. Department heads. Attachment 2, you'll see the written reports, and we'll go through them now. Jim, do you have anything to add to your report?
No, I do not.
And Pam, I thought I saw you online. Do you have anything to add to the report? All right, Pam? All right, we'll come back to you, Pam, if you want. Let us know if you want to give a report. Please, story.
So would you prefer to? So you all know that we placed flags in the cemeteries back in May to prepare them for Memorial Day. And I'm leaving the flags in place through the 4th of July if you drive by and see them. So when Jared and Ray and I went and did that, it became readily apparent that we have some pretty serious issues with our 3 oldest cemeteries, being Knott Road, also known as Remington Route, the Hun Cemetery, and the Lucas Cemetery on Route 21. When I say serious, I wouldn't be bothering you with this if we were talking about a few leaning headstones. We're not talking about that. We're talking about nearly 70 headstones that are going to lose the face of the headstone in the next 18 months. Or in many cases where that headstone is already damaged and laying on the ground. Okay, so when I say that, there's a lot of variation. Some of these headstones are falling apart and they are horizontal in the grass. Some of them are going to lose the face of the headstone, as I said, after the next freeze thaw cycle. The headstones I'm concerned about are 200+ years old. There are others that are 175, 165 years old. We have many headstones that are 200 years old, and they are the headstones of our very earliest founding families. I can't say that any one of these cemeteries is worse than another. They are all three in pretty serious shape. Our maintenance contract guys do a wonderful job. They're mowed. I don't want you to think there's anything wrong with the maintenance or that this has anything to do with anybody's neglect now or in the recent past. Some neglect that was in the very far past, and I would be talking about grandparents of the generation sitting in this room. There was some damage that was incurred at that time, and more recent generations have done the best they can to rectify that. What really is causing this is the geology of shale mined in this area for headstones 200 years ago and the weather. And it's not just our town that's facing this. This is happening up and down the eastern seaboard. I bring it to your attention because when that information is lost, vital statistics about those families, personal data, and cultural data will be lost forever. Many of you have seen my desk upstairs. You've seen the fragments. If you haven't, I urge you to stop by and I will show you what's going on. I'm going to try not to launch into a long dissertation tonight. I did meet with Jared, Preston Pierce, Ray Henry, Beth Thomas from Bristol, and Dan Marion from South Bristol.
Dan Marshall.
What's that?
Marshall.
Yeah, sorry. They have the same problems, and in that corner of Canandaigua that abuts Bristol, we have a lot of cultural crossover 200 years ago. We even believe that the stone carver who carved many of the stones in Hun Cemetery is buried in Hun Cemetery, but he's a Bristol resident. So there's a lot of commonalities between the two. And I'm hoping, as I home in on some answers for you, that there may be some shared savings in the methods we need to utilize to save our cemeteries. I don't think this is something where I'm going to come to you and say, we need $100,000 to save these cemeteries. That is probably pretty close to that number, but I don't think the town needs to be trying to find the financial solution. I think grants, donations, and other methods can be used to fundraise. So, and that, I don't want to go into all of it. I have begun to research how we might save those stones, and it's going to be a mixed bag of some will get preservation, immediate preservation this summer, and that will save them for another year or two. Some are so far gone that to do anything to them is to throw good money after that. It costs about $300 to $400 right now to do simple preservation. You can figure out if we do that every few years, which we have been, how quickly we spend a lot of money on one headstone. In 2017, we spent $2,300 to repair 8 stones. So you can see it doesn't go very far. And those stones that were repaired are now perhaps some of them beyond repair. So I don't want to tell you we're going to lose all our history. And the only way to do it is to just keep throwing money into it. We need to find a long-term solution that preserves the integrity of the cemeteries, preserves the data, preserves the cultural data. My last word would be that I hope you will take to heart that these are the oldest cultural monuments, public art in our town. There's nothing else even close. So when they're gone, they're gone. And I do think they're a great intersect for our kids and for our community.
Has the data been recorded in the databases that exist out there called like Find a Grave or?
Yes, so sure. So if we're happy with
No, I'm not
No,
suggesting
no,
you're happy with
but
that,
I
I'm
wanna
just
answer-
asking for that.
Right, so that is safe, yes. A lot of the data has been recorded in a number of places, okay? And we have photographs. Digital data isn't always secure. Digital data isn't always permanent. We have it in hard copy too, though.
Yeah, I'm just
And-
suggesting that that's another way to make sure it isn't lost,
Yes,
because I think you
we
mentioned
have
it
the
could be
data.
lost.
So let me, there's no easy answers, Linda. The other part of that is that if you go into Hun Cemetery, give me the hook. When you go into Hun Cemetery, there are vast swaths of the cemetery that you will see no headstone.
Right.
That's because those headstones were lost 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago. So we've lost that and we don't have capture. We're going to lose the headstones, even though we have the data captured. So we create different holes. We create physical holes, we have data holes. And ultimately, we're going to have art holes where there can, trust me, these headstones are unique. I assume all of you at one time or another have been to Hun for the various ceremonies that Ray has held there. Hun probably has the best collection extant of early post-colonial headstones. But I will share one little thing with you before I take any questions and then let you get out. I was counting headstones with my wife on Saturday, and we were trying to enumerate what needs immediate help and what's beyond help, what I'm calling an emergency. And that has nothing to do with whether the stone is leaning or not. In many cases, leaning stones are safer than stones that are okay. So I decided to prowl around in the hedgerow. And in my prowling around, I found footstones from 6 different graves that had been thrown in the hedgerow probably 50 years ago. Okay, they probably got in the way of somebody's mowing. I found a slate scratched headstone. That means that somebody scratched the initials on, or excuse me, footstone. He scratched the initials on that footstone, which leads me to believe it's probably 200 years old. On one of our headstones that's laying flat, and it's a daughter of Zadok Hun, scratched into that headstone is the price of the headstone. We wouldn't know it if it hadn't fallen over, so that's kind of a good thing. But that stone is now broken in half and it's losing its face. So there's this, like, it's a real mixed up bunch of problems, and they all require somebody with expertise, muscle, to repair them, to bring it back to where, you know, we can safely say we've done our due diligence. Nobody has to worry for another 20 years, hopefully another 50. So I guess I had begun to make contact, and I had to contact 2 more contractors to get, so I've got 3 estimates on replacement. I will be meeting with Peter Ellison on Wednesday to do a walkthrough of Hun and Lucas to determine the ones that need immediate attention and can safely winter through 1 more year. So next month, I will bring you more information, and I will probably ask you to authorize the expenditure of $4,000 to pay Peter Ellison to save some of our stones. We have 5,000 right now set aside for that. We don't want to burn through all of it. We may be able to use that to buy materials to do more restoration ourselves.
Do you know, you said you got some quotes on the replacement.
Yes,
Do you know ballpark? I know that.
yes. So Sarah Designs in Kentucky does cast resin. If I was to give them one of our headstones, take it to them and say, this is the one that we want to begin to replicate. And a lot of our stones fit the pattern. It would cost about $2,400 to create the mold. And then they could resin cast replacements for around $700. We would still have to engrave them. Now, that means that total headstone replacement would cost about $1,200 each. They will handle a range of temperature far beyond anything our environment can throw at them. We'd be looking at probably something more like a 50-year and beyond solution. We would be able to replicate very closely the stones that are the original stones, and we'd be able to engrave them in the style and with the information that's on the stone for that. So when you think that if we could hit $1,200 by, doing some preservation work, maybe over 3 different cycles for the stone, or we could save that stone, store it, and replace it for the same money, it starts to look a lot more financially responsible to it. So that's one solution to that. And it will obviously, more quotes.
Okay.
Jean,
If you don't mind, I'm going home and eat cake.
happy
All
birthday.
right.
There, I just wanted to let you know that I received some exciting news on Friday. I am moving towards obtaining my certified municipal clerk certification through the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. And there's a couple of weeks of classes that are coming up in July. And I was, with the help of Kathy and Kate Silverstern Jensen, I was able to apply for a scholarship, and I was awarded one of the $400 scholarships. So it's really going to reduce the cost of those 2 weeks of classes. So I'm very excited. So happy to report that. Other than that, you have my report, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thanks, and that is good news. Good luck with that.
Well, thank you.
Oh, hi, sorry.
Hi,
I'm
how
so
are
sorry.
you?
Please begin.
Yep, I'm here. I don't have a report. I will next one.
Okay, thank you. Doug, do you want to report anything?
Just, you have my report. The one thing I would add is last Thursday, I had a call with Moody's for our credit rating for, went very well. Those are always intensive. I'm sweating a lot during those calls, but those are always very intensive. They ask a lot of fantastic questions. Afterwards, our bonding company called me back. There was this meeting, was a Zoom session, which they said that they thought went very well. That we should expect at least the same quality rating that we had before or better. And I believe that's on rating will be issued next week.
Good.
And by the way, the bonding company, I'm sorry, Moody's, wanted to pass along that they were very impressed with the town board and the actions that we had taken with fund balance policies and with all of the fiscal things that we had done. They said that kudos, basically, is what they wanted to pass
Well, thank you for doing that, and thank you for your news. Monthly financial reports from me are attached. General questions. I will be reporting probably next month on the activities of the CLDC and what some of the things that we have been doing, but I will be sending out for anyone that is interested. Genesee Transportation Council has been doing a survey about the intersection of 5 and 20 and 332, looking for ways to improve that crossing and that whole general area. And they've done a very good study with input from the community. I've sent out information to everyone about those meetings, and I will keep you posted on that and send that. So there's been a lot of ideas, including bridges over 5 and 20, bridges under, and different traffic circles at different areas. Nothing is written in stone. It's just ideas from engineers and input from the community. So read it with that in mind, and I'll be happy to send that out to everyone. All right, and moving along, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Finance, Linda, do you have any?
I have nothing that we didn't discuss already.
Thank you. Terry, planning?
I can't remember, Jim, if you talked about the intersection of bypass Middle Cheshire Road. Was that in your report or?
It was not.
Yeah.
Go on.
That is something that we've, a number of years ago when the village was approved, incentive zoning was used. And there were certain amenities offered by the developer in order to use incentive zoning. One of the items that just got chiseled away at over time was to have 2 lanes heading south, that little piece of Middle Cheshire Road from Paris Street to the bypass. It got whittled down to the point, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 feet wide now, instead of actually having 2 lanes. And there's certain times of day that it's almost impossible to get through there. And I've seen over time, a lot of people just cutting in and around others in an effort to get out to the bypass. And usually involves a shift change at the hospital. So there is going to be, they're trying to set up a meeting, I guess, in July
July.
to sit down with the DOT and talk to them about that. And also throw on the table the northern end of town up here, because we did do a lot of work in that area. We had them here for a meeting. Well, it was, I think, before the
Before
COVID thing
everything went
struck, yeah.
south in March.
And they were gonna get back to us, but haven't yet, so that's something that's coming along also. So,
I'm surprised there was no right turn lane coming south, like there is going north there. That, like you said, when the shift changed from the hospital, you could wait at that light for
Oh, yeah,
behind people turning left for.
Yeah.
the light. So that seems to be an easy fix, but. So,
probably involves money.
yes. Well, thank you. Jared, anything from environmental?
No, I'll take care of that later when I do the ECB.
Okay, and Gary, anything from ordinance committee?
Nothing, we're just moving forward. There's a couple different others, code changes.
Planning? Oh, I see you on there now. All right. Is Terrence? No, not Terrence. Environmental conservation. Board?
Yep. So we continue to meet and play a role in looking over the development projects that are coming to us. We've had several new and interested residents who have shown up in our meetings who are interested in becoming part of the group. We had Shauna with us, and it's great to have her with us at the last one. We broke her into our last meeting. And I think it's time that we do look at the structure and the charge of the committee. So I'd like to set up a time probably with Shauna and Doug to talk about that and see how we can do what we talked about several months ago and expand the role, which will require input from the board and will require ordinance committee. You're welcome. Involved in that to make those changes. But I'll be reaching out to you guys probably this week, set up a time next week to go over that. And that's it.
All right, any report from a citizens implementation committee? Parks and Rec, I don't see Mark, did you want to give anything on Parks and Rec?
The Parks and Rec Committee
Yeah.
meets Wednesday night, I believe.
We're meeting Wednesday night, yes.
Agriculture committee, I think so. Thank you. Our next privilege of the floor, if anyone would like to be heard. Yes.
I'm not Karen Parkhurst. Hey, I talk loud enough.
Okay, we'll
They
try.
can hear me. Can you hear me?
Gene says yes.
Okay. Going back to the cemeteries. What is what does the law require a municipality to do for cemeteries? Does it require maintaining the integrity of the headstones, or does it just require the maintenance of the grounds?
Yeah, there are very specific things called out in statute, and rather than telling you broadly, it would be better for us to research that and give you
I
specifics.
can tell you I've read it, but I don't recall.
Yeah, well, I have two and I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because it is really important that we save this part of our history. And my feeling is that there are cemeteries in the New England area that have had a tremendous amount of upkeep and upgrading and maintenance, and we might be able to borrow some ideas from those people when it comes to maintaining the integrity of the headstones in our cemetery.
It's funny you should say that. My family's from Maine, one of the first settlers in Scott County, and have been the beneficiary.
I'm a big fan of old cemeteries.
I am too. I am too. So yes, Leaf and I have spoken about it quite a bit with Jared. I was unable to go to that meeting in Bristol, but we're gonna find however we can to raise the money, doing resin casting and things like that. Even if there's replicas and the record, kept of the headstone.
Well, sometimes these headstones in our cemeteries, because of the composite that they use to make them, you're not able to maintain that integrity because they disintegrate over a
Because of
period
the
of
layers
time.
of the slate in
The slate,
between.
just
It just-
It's like ours,
Yeah.
yeah. But it seems to me that we could come up with an alternative method that might be less expensive than creating a whole new headstone. And we might want to research other historical cemeteries to see what they've done.
I can tell you without a doubt that Leaf is on top of it.
And yeah, and I would add too, I mean, there's a lot of, we're not the only ones. I mean,
No,
other
I know that.
municipalities just in our, like we said. And I think it's something that needs to be on, that is on our, coming onto our radar. Because I mean, what, like Leaf said, once they're gone, they're gone. And also, you're probably the same way, that what, you know, the way we treat our cemeteries, you know, people who can't, you know, they can't speak up for themselves, they're gone. That's the last vestige of our heritage right there. We even had, I took Congressman Jacobs on a tour of Hun to get that on his radar, to see we're reaching out to wherever we can to say, hey, look, this is what we have. We might be coming back to you asking for some money down the road, you know, just be aware this is what we've got. So we're trying to incorporate state and federal and as much as we
And we
can.
probably should stay on top of grant money
Yes.
available, because
Mhm.
it seems to me that, you know, with these grant funds that are available for things like that.
I would send information on some art grants, some arts that we could use and maybe incorporate do some murals or some sort of other scenic things at the cemetery, some interpretive items.
Mhm.
And then that might open up more money for us to apply that to the stones. So,
Well, we have a really great resource right in the Rochester area, the Mount Hope Cemetery. And if you go through there and see how they have Civil War,
mhm.
a whole Civil War area. And I don't know our new historian, but I hope he's on top of
Mhm.
researching places like that. But I would really like to know what the law says that a municipality has to do when it comes to the cemeteries in their area.
We'll get that information for you.
You're writing that all down, aren't you, Emily?
I'm sorry. I'll write it right here. Resolutions and motions. Okay, we have no continued resolutions, new resolutions. Resolution number 2021-131, excuse me, acceptance of the monthly financial reports.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-132, acknowledgement and authorization of budget transfers by town manager.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-133, authorized closure of refuse and garbage fund.
So move.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-134, acknowledging the cancellation of outstanding checks.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-135, setting a public hearing on a local law to override the tax levy limit. So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The resolution carries. Resolution 2021-136, appointing a full-time parks laborer position.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-137, authorization for town clerk to surplus items in accordance with the fixed asset inventory and management policy.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Authorization, I'm sorry, resolution number 2021-138, authorization for expenditures relating to affordable housing, acceptance of MRB Group's proposal for planning services related to exploring affordable housing and authorization for town manager to execute.
I'd like to propose tabling this until next month. I'm all in favor of looking into this as part of that group for the housing, but I think in giving it thought, this seems like it's something that's a lot bigger than just the town, that we really need to broaden our scope and our look at this and at a minimum include the city and Farmington, as we share a lot of similar demographics. We share a lot of the same groupings. And even, even this, I was looking through the goals of the LDC. And see if we could,
I was just,
you're looking for the right term that I
Yes.
used?
Are
Did
you
I pull up
laying-
the wrong one?
laying it over or tabling it indefinitely.
Well, we could lay it over till next month and then bring it back and see if we can include, I was even thinking of the LDC. If that's something, because one of the goals there is jobs and development, and housing relates right to that. Maybe the LDC could take a look, and then we have even more resources at it.
It is a bigger situation than just the town of
Yeah.
Canandaigua, so it does require more
Yeah.
participation and effort.
So what are you thinking next month? Just so that we can get our head around what you're thinking next month would be different, how?
To see, to have a month, the committee, is the committee meeting this month, Karen?
I was waiting to see.
To see what happened with-
Pass.
We'll go with that, it's okay.
But if I could.
Yeah.
We are thinking in the same terms you are, and not
Okay.
just Farmington and the city of Canandaigua. My thoughts are Wayne, Seneca, Ontario counties. Because I've researched different affordable housing councils throughout New York State. And typically, they're either countywide or tri-county.
Yeah.
And, but part of what MRB was going to do is help us make the decision on how to move forward in that area.
So what you're saying is this money that was being authorized to have the consultant help you decide which way to do what Jared is hoping to do, but were you hoping it would be done next month?
No, I was hoping we could tap into, it's because it's larger than the town, tap into other resources. I mean, we have the LDC, we have other groups that have money there for development.
So do you want to postpone it indefinitely?
If you guys,
That might
if you
be,
think that might be the best, so I'm in favor of that, postponing indefinitely. Okay, so a motion to table indefinitely.
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion on that? All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed?
Like I said, whatever this committee wants to do is fine with me. I feel like they're the people who know the most about it.
The resolution carries. Thank you. Resolution number 2021-138, authorization for expenditures relating to affordable housing. I just did that one, I'm sorry. Knew it sounded familiar. Resolution number 2021-139, acceptance of Aerolic's proposal to provide comprehensive pest control services to the town, et cetera.
so move,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-140, acknowledge the extension and expansion of the COVID-19 utility moratorium.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-141, naming the Outhouse Park West all-inclusive playground and acceptance of MRB Group contract amendment.
so move,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
aye,
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-142, authorize reimbursement for mailbox damage during snow removal.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-143, accepting, I'm sorry, I'm looking at, I get notifications on my watch. It's in my connection is unstable, so that's not looking at the time, getting warnings. Okay, resolution number 2021-143, accepting water main easements related to tax map number 97.04, et cetera, et cetera.
so move,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-144, accepting an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Canandaigua and the town of Farmington related to the provision acquired and authorizing town board to execute agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excuse me, resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-145, acceptance of 2-year maintenance bond for Fox Ridge subdivision phase 5B2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-146, Fox Ridge Phase 5B2, acceptance of dedication of roadway, etc.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-147, authorizing highway superintendent to use precision trenchless to reline a stormwater pipe on water line.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
You gotta supervise that.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-148, approval of the purchase of equipment for the protection of the Canandaigua Consolidated Water District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-149, setting a public hearing on the draft 2021 comprehensive plan update and secret intent to declare lead agency.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-150, setting a public hearing on the draft Uptown Canandaigua form-based code phase 1 document, secret intent to declare lead agency.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 2021, -151, setting a public hearing on a proposed local law amending portions of the town code pertaining to zoning in order to allow for the construction of certain digital signs, to provide for the replacement of certain pre-existing signs with digital signs, and to facilitate resolution of pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-152, recognizing the town of Canandaigua resident Eugene Gerard for his years of service to our country in the Coast Guard during World War II from 1942 to 1945, and his continued service to his community for many years on the occasion of his 99th birthday.
So moved.
Second.
I would like to have discussion. I don't know if Gene was able to join us by Zoom. He is in Virginia.
Yeah.
As you will see from the resolution, he was in the Coast Guard from 1942 to 1945. But his 99th birthday was in May, and this past week he was honored. I nominated him for recognition by Congressman Jacobs, and he was awarded. Very happy for him and his family. He lives in the town of Canandaigua. He's been involved in public service his whole life, and it was an honor to present him with that. And assuming we pass this resolution, we will be presenting him with a copy of this resolution. Returns from Virginia. So, all in favor, signal.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you very much, Gene, and happy birthday. By the way, Gene is in better shape than I am, so I'm sure he's having fun. Resolution number 2021-153, Square Knot Brewery, LLC, alcoholic beverages license notice.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-154, acknowledgement of and authorization to submit MS4 annual report.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Resolution number 2021-155, setting a public hearing on local law opting out of adult use cannabis retail dispensaries and on-site consumption and secret intent to declare lead agency.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion?
are we ready to do this? I
don't know,
mean-
you tell me, I think we may have to separate these into two separate things. We sent out a lot of information, there's a lot of
Yeah.
training. I don't know that we need a separate training on it, but I'd be happy if anyone has any questions to answer particular questions. I had intended to do a training for you all, but there's so much out there now available. In terms of what is available. The problem is that there's
Well, that's,
a lot of unanswered
that's
questions.
the question I have. There's, for us to vote on something that's not really well defined.
Well, you would just be voting
you know.
on whether to opt out from it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can always opt out because you can opt in at any time.
Correct.
So, we schedule a public hearing, see what the public has to say, but we don't necessarily have to act on it at our next meeting, or we could put it out a little while longer, although some of these rules and regulations, the state is saying it's going to be 18 months before, that they'll have the information available. So,
Which goes to the point of what you might want to consider opting out. I do have, like I said, a lot of information on this particular topic. But we can discuss it next time. if
Yeah.
we reach out to you.
Yeah.
The other thing is that's subject to permissive referendum.
mhm.
So if we opt out or opt in, and you don't vote to opt in, so I guess they would be- we opt out, that's subject to. permissive. That will be explained in our next.
Mhm.
Correct, whatever unanswered questions there may be. I've done a lot of research about a lot of places in the country that have already gone through this process. So there are a lot of questions, there may not be a lot of answers yet.
Well, the state doesn't have to have the regulations, it says until the end of September anyways, before they let you know what's going on, right?
For different parts of the law. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Resolution carries. And on that, if you're gonna opt out, you have to do it by the end of the year, so that's. Move if we're going to. Or not. Resolution number 2021-156, soil erosion and sediment control surety for 5927 Rossi Road.
So move.
Second. Any discussion? Quickly?
I do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Resolution number 2021-157. Acknowledgement and acceptance of 2020 annual audit report by Donna Dean.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Next, we have approval of town board meeting minutes from May 17th, 2021.
Second.
Any corrections, deletions, additions? No discussion. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve the minutes as carried. Next, we have payment of bills. Jean.
Yes, the utility abstract dated June 2nd, 2021 totaling $17,409.87. The general fund of $12,451.92, capital projects of $1,810.12, and water districts totaling $3,147.83. The town board abstract dated June 21st, 2021 totaling $810,538.50. The general fund of $221,971.36. Solid waste fund of $8,462.75. Capital or highway fund of $166,017.01. Capital projects of $400,307.79. Drainage districts of $576.63, lighting districts of $1,147.14, water districts of $12,055.82.
Thank you, Jean. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve payment of bills is carried. We have our next privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to be heard. See anyone? Any other business? Okay, the next Last thing to the floor. Seeing none hands, I want to thank everyone for being here, and if we're not ending yet, we have an executive session, but I don't expect that we will have anything after. But thank you everyone for coming, it's nice to see everyone, and I hope this hybrid method worked. We'll keep refining it, thank you to Doug for setting it all up. There's a motion, can you want to delineate what the executive session is for?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? So it's as shown on the agenda. Okay. Any further discussion? Who would be like, should it be as shown here? Okay, all in favor of moving into executive session?
Aye. Aye.
All right, we're back from executive session. We have no further business to conduct. I take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good night, Chris.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, Chris.
Have a good night, everybody.